Following Homer's masterpiece The Odyssey, and especially Nekia, the 11th Rhapsody, Dante Alighieri composed his own epic, Commedia, a work later to be known as the Divine Comedy. It took him 12 years to write it, from 1308 to 1320. The poet completed it just a year before his death. It is a magnificent poem in three parts: Hell, Purgatory, and Paradise, and its form revolves around number 3. For example, it is written in 3 parts, and it is comprised by 33 cantos each, and so on. It is an adventure that starts on the night of Maundy Thursday and ends on Wednesday after Easter. Like Faust, Dante faces doubt and a deep personal crisis as he approaches the age of 40, and at Easter, when the most amazing theological, ethical, and metaphysical questions are brought to mankind via the participation and celebration of the passing of Christ from death to life through resurrection. The affirmation of love for God's creation, the message of salvation that is transmitted to everyone, will take a trance-like meditation or journey in the underworld of several days for the poet to understand and acknowledge the world around him. Medieval theology, Aristotle's methodology, and Dante's inspiration all helped to shape the Divine Comedy, this exquisite epic in which faith, knowledge, and art are interwoven, producing one of the greatest works of literature ever. The first part, Hell, is probably the most well known, due to its grim, accurate, menacing description of the severe and horrendous punishment of the souls of the sinners for an eternity. It is a very convincing image, although it is quite subjective, as it is a product of Dante's imagination, along with several ideas that permeated theology in his time. Brutal punishments of a reciprocal nature, analogous to the sins committed on earth, terrify the reader. Hell is designed in a downward spiral like a wasp hive, and as Dante climbs down towards the peak of the cone, with Virgil, the great Roman poet, as his guide, so as he goes towards the peak of the cone where devil resides, he meets people of his times, suffering for their horrible deeds. They sometimes talk to him, although demons, the whip, deformities, pain, blood, do not allow them to speak for long. Hell is made of 9 circles. Holy Saturday finds Dante in the 6th circle. The circles are limbo, and then one for the following sins: lust, gluttony, greed, wrath, heresy. Violence, and then there are 3 rings: violence against oneself, against others, against nature and God. And then the 8th circle, that of fraud, has 10 rings, in Italian bolge. Then he arrives at the 9th circle, that of treachery, which has different rings also. Caina, from Cain, who killed his brother, Antenora, Ptolomea, and Judaica, for Judas Iscariot. At the center of hell, the ultimate sinner, the ultimate betrayal, devil, the ultimate betrayer of God, is situated. He has wings, he flaps his wings, and everything goes icy. And sinners, those who have committed sins of and are situated in each of the previous categories, Caina, Antenora, Ptolemaea, Judaica. Um, they are found inside the ice, more or less, but they're all immobile. So some of them are into the ice up to the waist, or then up to the neck, or higher up, and then the last one, they have to be inside the ice completely, and it's their tears, even their tears are icy, and it's hurting enormously, and the constant flapping of the wings of the devil creates more ice that never subsides and never melts. And there he is with his three heads, like Cerberus, the ancient, the guardian of hell, according to ancient Greek mythology. And he's there with his wings and three heads, and each head chews eternally one of the prime, so to speak, traitors, Cassius, Brutus, and Judas Iscariot. Cassius and Brutus, who betrayed and killed Julius Caesar, and of course Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus Christ. So actually it is very metaphysical, it is very philosophical, it contains many theological questions and theory and dogmatic positions of his times, but it's also a work of art. Primarily it's a work of art, so it's quite subjective, and it's also a journey of vengeance. Dante Alighieri, because of his political beliefs and the civil war in Florence, was in exile. He couldn't go back to his city, his beloved city, which he had served for many years. So he was an itinerant artist in exile, and very bitter for his destiny, for his fate, and very unhappy. He couldn't see his family. He could be killed if he returned. All his fortune was seized by the state, and he creates Divine Comedy, in which he puts traitors, exactly the kind of people who caused him all these tragedies and unhappiness and bitterness, to be at the core of punishment and to be the most corrupt sinners that will see no redemption whatsoever. There is nothing for an eternity for them except for being tortured in the neighboring areas of hell's, of devil's embrace. So on the one hand, he punishes his enemies, he makes them look ridiculous, petty, vengeful, that they have wronged him, and they have wronged the state. It's actually like Dante goes back to the golden age of the Athenian, the Greek democracy, and he creates really an epic and a tragedy equally great to that of those of Aeschylus and Sophocles and Euripides. Aeschylus, in his Oresteia, he puts Athena, the goddess Athena, protector and founder of the city of Athens, to talk against civil war. And she says that all vendettas and have to be abandoned, all ideas, and justice has to be done in courts, with arguments, with lawyers, as we would say today, and counter arguments and there should be a punishment, but according to the rules and principles that the people have voted and the judges will assign to the person who committed a crime. So Dante does the same for his city, and this is his redemption. He creates a work of self vindication. He punishes, but not like he was punished concretely. He punishes in his imagination his enemies, and he forgets and forgives. And he also gives an amazing, indirectly maybe, but an amazing oration on what should be done to have a wonderful, flourishing city. People should beware of the traitors. They should know who the real traitor is. This is eating him up. So there are many kinds of treachery against friends and family, against political enemies, adversaries, or even previously friends, and of course against God and the city. So after God, the city is the greatest thing that man has thought of in this life. And Dante follows, also put himself as a great poet by putting Virgil to be his leader into the underworld. And then, after he finishes his meditation about hell and about metaphysics, about love, about hate, about sin, about the nature of man, then he goes on to the purgatory at Easter, and then he will move on without Virgil, but with the love of his life, Beatrice, to see what it is like to be close to God and feel the love of God. So it's a poem of vindication, but only in imagination. It's very mythological. It's like scholastic philosophy. It's very influenced by scholastic theology and philosophy of his times. Very analytical, very vivid, very descriptive, amazing images, great poetry. And those who have the courage to go through it, because it's a long poem, they should not stop at hell, but they should move on and see how Dante describes purgatory and how he describes especially paradise, which is a cosmic poem and gives also geography and cosmology of his times. He sees the celestial spheres and he travels into space, and it's all really, really, really amazing, although we now know that this depiction of the cosmos is not exact, but it's all about amazing poetry and about a person who suffered so much, giving up on vengeance and embracing, being able, actually this is the greatest vengeance over his enemies, that he is able in his poem to see God and feel his love. So he says to everyone that God loves me, but you are sinners and you will rot in hell for an eternity. This is the worst part of it. you will suffer, and there will be never a redemption. Only for those who are in purgatory, but under certain conditions and after a certain period of time for each one and for each cycle of purgatory, where we have the seven deadly sins. So it's a miraculous poem. It's the rebirth of literature in the late Middle Ages, and it's an amazing, amazing work of art.